Chapter 941, A Commitment. Complexion turned grim. Kanaja clearly recalled that he had just concluded the negotiation with Tang Xiu and thus cleared out all the enmities between both sides. Yet now Tang Xiu proposed such a request? Isn't this equal to going back on his commitment? As a shrewd and experienced man, however, he didn't let his rage take over and instead stared at Tang Xiu deeply and asked instead, "Firstly, may I know whose lives you want to buy, Mr. Tang?" "All who know the existence of Spectre here besides yourself," answered Tang Xiu. "If my guess is correct, aside from your lieutenants and trusted men, that would also include Songzan's men." The request made Kanaja abruptly get up and cry out in shock. "But why, Mr. Tang?" "Kanaja, the fact that you can hold your ground to mix and stir the turbid water in Bangkok is the evidence of your power and resourcefulness, meaning that you also have your own reliable intel network," said Tang Xiu with a dead serious face. "Based on that, you must have heard the incidents regarding what happened to the number 1319 max security prison in Israel, that detained a large number of highly dangerous convicts all over the world, right? And you should have guessed the mastermind behind it, which is me. It was really you." Kanaja trembled, both surprised and shocked. "You're a smart man, so don't tell me you're unable to draw out the conclusion that it was my doing given the presence of Spectre here," said Tang Xiu indifferently. "It was your friend, young Master Bai, who reminded me about it. I myself wouldn't have come to this conjecture otherwise." Kanaja forced a wry smile and said, "But how does it have anything to do with buying my men's lives?" "Well, only dead men tell no tales," said Tang Xiu apathetically. "You may be able to keep your mouth shut about the appearance of Spectre, but speaking the same for your men is hardly a guarantee. I give you my word that I won't hold you accountable for the previous issue, yet the more important issue still remains, the trace of Spectre and the rest of the convicts. Now you think for yourself, if anyone who is concerned with the whereabouts of Spectre and the rest learn about this, would they just give it up? Instead of letting all these convicts go to Bangkok to deal with this problem themselves, it's better for you to take a stand and save yourself the trouble." With his scalp tingling, Kanaja felt a chill run down his spine. Just Spectre alone already made him a bit scared. What if hundreds of those dreadful convicts came here later? It was definitely better for him to commit suicide right here and now. But then again, while he couldn't care less about Songzan and his men, the rest under him were men he had trained to be his trusted confidants. Erasing all of them would be too much of a loss for him. Seeing that it was difficult for Kanaja to decide on the issue, Tang Xiu then spoke again. "You may have to lose some of your men, but I think obtaining my friendship is still a very good deal should you take my offer. There's also something else you haven't learned of yet. Singluan will become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, which I'm sure is an entity you have some knowledge about. With a clan with such deep heritage and Singluan who is my good friend at the helm, you will not only obtain my friendship, but will also secure Singluan's friendship. Hence, I think having his friendship will be of great help to you should you want to develop and expand further in Thailand later." "Singluan is going to be the Dark Shaman's patriarch? How is this possible?" asked Kanaja in shock. "To the best of my knowledge, the current head of this clan is still in his prime, while Singluan also has a big brother called Sinquo. Be it the current head of the Dark Shaman clan, Singluan, or Sinquo, they are nothing but ants in my eyes. Removing them from existence is as easy as turning my hand," sneered Tang Xiu. "But Singluan is a young man with aspirations. While the power he controls is recognizable, it's absolutely easy for him to be the Dark Shaman's patriarch with my help." Kanaja instantly understood Tang Xiu's intention and also grasped Singluan's plan in extension. He quickly analyzed all the variables in mind and, after weighing the pros and cons, he got up and put on a dead serious face, asking, "Are you really sincere in offering me your friendship, Mr. Tang? We, Chinese, have a saying that the more friends we have on the road, the better the voyage." Tang Xiu also got up and said, "I, Tang Xiu, am a very formidable man myself. It's unlikely for me to offer my friendship to those unworthy of it. It's now your call whether you'll take the offer and get it." Eyes gleaming with killing intent, Kanaja responded with a nod and said, "Then I'll need assistance to do that with Spectre's hands. I can't do it by sending my other men to kill them." Tang Xiu clapped and said, "Those who are not stuck at trifles are bound to achieve great things. You've proven yourself worthy and deserve to be the godfather of Bangkok's underworld, Mr. Kanaja. I believe you can go further in the future while having much more loyal and powerful men under you." Kanaja's eyes were as though blazing, a sign of the flame of his ambition. Then he said, "This is a big gamble as I see it, Mr. Tang. But I'm willing to bet on you. However, do you mind answering my question?" "Do ask," said Tang Xiu. "What did you want to achieve by enacting such a prison break from the number 1319 labor camp?" asked Kanaja. Instead of answering, Tang Xiu rhetorically asked with a faint smile, "Who cares more about having additional men under their own hands nowadays?" "You did that just to find some more men?" asked Kanaja in shock. "But you also know that these guys are all cruel and ruthless figures, don't you? I admit that I'm not a good person myself, but comparing me with them will make me look like a saint." "Even if they are wicked and evil, what about it?" answered Tang Xiu. "They are still a bunch of ants to me. For whoever among them who dares to disobey my orders or betray me, I can just easily make them meet their maker. I believe they know what to choose when they are faced with life and death on the stake. Aren't you overestimating your own power?" "These people are," said Kanaja with a strange expression. Tang Xiu just shook his head in response. Right after he opened his arms, 2 flames appeared on his palms and his body began to float while still remaining in his sitting posture. You are," shocked and horrified, Kanaja pointed at Tang Xiu and shouted in alarm, "Are you an ability user? An elementalist?" "Ability user?" "Humph." Tang Xiu scoffed and said, "I've killed too many ability users to count. I'm not one of them and not even an ounce of my power can be achieved by those ability users. 10,000, or even 1,000,000 ability users can stand before me, yet they will be thoroughly eradicated should I will it so." "Are you kinda invincible under the sun then?" asked Kanaja yet again, unable to find a more appropriate response. "Me? Invincible? Nobody is invincible in this world." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "What you know about humans is not much, nor do you have deep knowledge of certain things pertaining to this issue. You should have heard of the top 3 organizations in the world, right? Yeah, the Pyramid, the League of Archcrusaders, and the Stygian Club. There's also another I know of, the Darkwind organization," answered Kanaja. "Yes. You also know how powerful the forces possessed by these 3 organizations are. They literally boast tons of powerhouses at the ready," said Tang Xiu. "I've fought the Stygian Club's vampires, their werewolves, and even wingmen. I've killed a lot of them. The strength of these people is beyond your imagination. Vampire? Werewolf? And wingmen?" Kanaja gasped. He had also heard that these kinds of species in the world truly exist, yet he never had seen them once. But Tang Xiu claimed that he had killed these terrifying existences? Isn't this way too powerful, making him a very terrifying existence himself? Suddenly, he was truly glad that he called by Tao, rejoicing that he didn't go as far as tearing all decorum with Tang Xiu. If he did, he would have been turned into a corpse by now, wouldn't he? Tang Xiu then got up before waving his hand and speaking again, "All right. I already spoke a bit too much today, so let's drop it now. Remember to give me the list and I'll give it to Spectre to deal with it." "I understand," nodded Kanaja with a solemn face. Inside the suite of the Amanda Hotel, Zhang Xingya was somewhat restless as she didn't know how the issue would turn out and be dealt with between Tang Xiu and Kanaja. She didn't wish to see Tang Xiu resort to murder again since she didn't want him to encounter any dangers. Knock, knock. The suite's door was knocked and she rushed to the door to open it. Her hand hadn't yet reached the doorknob, but it was already opened from the outside. Tang Xiu appeared in her sight beyond the door. You're back. Are you all right? Zhang Xinya hurriedly observed Tang Xiu's body. After seeing that he looked fine, only then did she finally feel relieved. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and shook his head as he paced into the room. There, he took out his phone to dial a number. After his call got picked up, he spoke, "Bai Tao, I hope the appearance of Spectre won't be found out by another soul from your mouth." "You can be sure about that," assured Bai Tao. "You're really too smart a man, you know that?" Tang Xiu sighed. "You can correctly guess that I was the mastermind behind the prison break incident of the number 1319 labor camp. It seems like I gotta bribe you with some meals and wine once I get back to the mainland just to seal off your mouth." Bai Tao hollowly laughed but then curiously asked, "You know, Tang Xiu. It still makes curious, though. Why did you incite such a prison break and take them out? Those guys are nothing but murderers who can kill without batting an eye. Can you really contain and have them under control? I'll be frank with you, mate. I've been short on manpower, but there's one thing I can tell you. I have absolute control over them," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "They are now my men and they are simply like lambs before me. I order them to head toward east, they won't dare to go west, nor will they enter the ground if I order them to fly to the sky. That's beyond what I can imagine of how powerful you have become now, Tang Xiu." Bai Tao incredulously called out, "All right, brother. I'll erase everything about this matter from my mind later." "Well, it's settled, then." Tang Xiu smiled and said, "Anyhow, let's meet and have some wine later with Chui once I get back. I really didn't expect that Chui turned out to be your cousin back then." Bai Tao chuckled and said, "You two are now relatives, but you had better not take advantage of it to pick up on me later." "Well, it may happen, though." Tang Xiu chuckled. "Bah, shameless." Bai Tao cursed. They both chatted for a while and ended the call after some time. Tang Xiu then looked at Zhang Xinya and smilingly said, "I'll accompany you out for a day tomorrow and one of my men will escort you back to the mainland the day after. There's still an important thing I need to tend to in Thailand, so I'll be staying here for a while." "Is it dangerous?" asked Zhang Xinya with concern. "I already told you nothing dangerous will happen to me, didn't I?" said Tang Xiu with a smile. "Besides, even the leader of the biggest underworld force in Bangkok, Kanaja, must act with respect before me. Who else could bring me danger here?" Chapter 942, Asking for a Slap in the Face. Tang Xiu's acceptance of Zhang Xinya was not purely for sentimental reasons, but rather due to his difficulty in his own nature to eliminate the grace of a belle. He had always been a man with a soft heart, even in his past life. Once upon a time, he regarded himself as an idealist, believing that if he only loved one woman in his life, he would be able to be together with her until the earth and heaven got old. And yet, the final outcome shred that dream of his to pieces. Certainly, there was also another variable in the works. After he came to Earth, he chose to cultivate in the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, the most profound cultivation art originating from the demon realm. It began affecting his nature without him realizing it. Previously a man of self-restraint, he was now gradually turning into a man who followed his own whim, a free and unfettered man who does as he wishes for his entire life, which was the condition set by the heavenly art of cosmic genesis to reach its highest cultivation realm. A warm feeling filled Tang Xiu's heart as he looked at the slightly worried expression that Zhang Xinya was showing him. It was the sincerity of the heart, and he also wished to give it back to her. He gently hugged her and smilingly said, "I'm always careful in whatever I do. When I fight or run into danger, I'll win or stay away from it if I can't win and deal with it another time. Besides, those who could possibly kill me haven't yet been born into this world." Zhang Xinya nodded gently. She herself absolutely didn't wish to become Tang Xiu's burden, even though he had accepted her as his woman. That way, she wouldn't affect his affairs. To her, returning back the feeling was the best course to take. She was a smart woman and knew that her current self was only able to support him from the back in silence. Becoming his woman was already enough of a joyful thing to her. And tonight, she shed away all the constraints and unfolded all the curtains that cocooned her virginity, completely immersing herself in the world of love. Although it was her first time having her chastity broken, she still braved it to completely become Tang Xiu's woman. Nevertheless, it was still her first time and she woke up full of shyness the next day with spasms of pain in her lower parts. All right, let's stroll around. She was now looking like an ordinary girl who was eager to spend time strolling around with her boyfriend, enjoying their time as a couple. Regardless of the faint ache she felt, she walked alongside Tang Xiu to leave the hotel. Bangkok had many scenic spots and the couple visited many of them, tasting various delicacies and buying many things. The display of their sweet lover's attitude from the couple even provoked the envy of countless men and women. However, they still kept it under control to stay low profile due to Zhang Xinya's celebrity identity and dressed in simple disguises. The vicinity near the Chao Phraya River. On the edge of the avenue was a gathering crowd, most of whom who wore a travel agency's red caps and watched street magic gigs. Bursts of praises could be heard from the crowd from time to time. Amazing! Despite knowing that the show involved some kinds of tricks, Zhang Shenya still praised as she saw the thin man with a scar on his left eyebrow unleash a flame from his palm and pull out a dove from the burning flame. The trick shown by the middle-aged magician itself had been figured out by Tang Xiu after he released his perception, so he shook his head and said, "It's all a trick. Something you can also perform in front of ordinary audiences if you have some special stage props to perform with. If you want to see what a true magic show is, I'll perform it for you once we get back." "You can do magic gigs too?" asked Zhang Xinya, surprised. "What I can do is much better than magic." Tang Xiu chuckled and said, "Using stage props to perform such a feat is only for ordinary people. You definitely won't be able to conceal it from experts' eyes." Humph. What a boast. A girl standing next to them was unable to hold herself back from rolling her eyes and ridiculed. Her name was Li Yan, a Chinese tourist from a tour group. She was blown away from the magician's wonderful performance, driving her to let out ridicule when she heard someone criticize it in Mandarin. The young man beside her, Yu Su, patted her shoulder and smilingly said, "China has more than 1 billion people. You don't need to be surprised if there's any strange breed popping up among us. But this guy is indeed quite amazing, though, daring to talk so big when he's abroad." Glancing at the couple who ridiculed him caused Tang Xiu to be unable to hold in his chuckle. Zhang Shenya, however, was unhappy after hearing some people mock Tang Xiu and grunted, "Who do you say is talking big, huh? My boyfriend always means what he says. He never speaks anything he cannot do." Li Yan faintly felt Zhang Shenya's face was familiar. But she couldn't recognize her with the sun hat and black big sunglasses that blocked most of her face, so she said, "People say that women in love always lose their mind, pretty girl. I think you're way too infatuated with him. Let me tell you, girl. Tell your boyfriend to grow up. It's ridiculous hearing him brag like that, you know." Pfft. Instead of getting irritated, Zhang Shenya was laughing as she suddenly thought that it was particularly interesting when she recalled Tang Xiu's ability and nature. Tang Xiu himself was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh and shook his head. "Hey, pretty girl. Haven't you heard that you can destroy everything except one's relationship? I don't think we have any ill feelings, no?" Li Yan smiled yet still rolled her eyes. "Tang Xiu, I'm a beauty, that's a fact. Not the likes of your fake bragging. But what you just boasted about doesn't do justice for that magician. Just look for yourself, how many can perform better than him? Even everyone else around is applauding him. If you're better than this awesome magician, you can expect my apology right away." Yu Su, who was Li Yan's admirer and pursuer, quickly chimed in after hearing it, "That's right, man. I'll immediately apologize to you on her behalf if you can prove you're better than this magician. I won't bother with this little thing, so spare the apology." Tang Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "Besides, even if I want to show it off, I'm going to show it to my woman rather than have a full-blown performance on this avenue. Yu Su burst into laughter after hearing it, thinking that Tang Xiu was afraid. He immediately shouted aloud, "You guys shouldn't be a member of a tourist group, right? Everyone, he just boasted that he's a great magician himself and his magic is much better than this magician. I asked him to perform in public, but he actually..." Any of you want to see this guy's performance too? In that instant, those in the surroundings turned their heads to look at Tang Xiu's group. Even the performing magician looked indignant. He knew Mandarin and had been to China to perform his gigs. Although he was not that famous, he still felt irritated to have someone berate him. Seeing that everyone's eyes were trained on them, Zhang Xingya was worried that they would be exposed. She immediately grabbed Tang Xiu's hand and said, "Let's just leave. There's nothing fun to see here. Let's head somewhere else." Tang Xiu nodded and smiled. Just as they were about to walk away, that magician squeezed through the crowd and blocked their path. A sullen Baong stared at Tang Xiu. He spoke out, "You can do magic performances yourself?" "A bit, though it's a shallow one," said Tang Xiu. A look of contempt betrayed Basong's face. "Shallow, huh? Then don't brag just to influence others. I affected your performance? It's him who did that." Tang Xiu pointed to Yu Su and said, "I and my girlfriend just watched the show, it was this guy who yelled. If you want to throw your tantrum, why don't you pick on him?" Yu Su immediately glared and scowled, "What the hell? Don't throw your shit on my head. It's clear you just said that this magician's magic is garbage, so we laughed at you. So what? You mocked others, but you won't admit it now? Is what he says true, young man?" Basong growled, "You said my magic performance is trash?" Seeing the hostility from these two fellas made Tang Xiu feel slightly helpless. Had he known that his comment would create such a ruckus, he wouldn't have talked too much previously. He then looked at Zhang Xingya and asked, "Do you really want to see me performing magic?" "I do." But, Zhang Xingya hesitated and said, "But not here. It's just that I don't like this guy who sells out his fellow countrymen and causes trouble." "What rubbish are you talking about?" Li Yan was unhappy and shouted, "What's wrong with what my friend did? Selling out a fellow countryman and causing troubles? It was you who obviously mocked the magician and made us Chinese lose face. And now you speak like that? If you really got the ability, why don't you show it off to everyone here? You both are really noisy busybodies." Tang Xiu creased his brows and said, "You really want to court some slaps in the face here? Fine. I hope you can take this lesson well so as not to provoke others and invite trouble later." With that said, he looked around and spoke aloud, "Everyone, since you want to see me performing magic, please retreat back so you won't be affected when I'm performing my magic." Immediately, the crowd on the scene receded a few meters away, including the locals who didn't even speak Chinese. Tang Xiu then shifted his sight to Baong and sneered, "I did say your magic performance is just trash. Now let me open your eyes as to what kind of magic can be called real and true." He slowly opened his hands elegantly, slightly blowing his breath towards his right hand. A small flame then appeared on his palm and was swayed by the wind. Tang Xiu blew again to his left hand and created another flame on his left palm. "Everyone, I can also change the shape of this flame to any shape I wish to. Just tell me what shape you want to see this flame become. I'll change it for you." A teenage girl amid the crowd shouted, "Can you change it to become a white dove? Just like what that magician did? Change it to a white dove? That's not even a challenge." Tang Xiu laughed and said, "All right, I'll give you a flaming pigeon and make it dance around you." As he said that, Tang Xiu manipulated the flames to quickly transform into the shape of a dove. He gently waved to make the two flame pigeons get as big as the size of a normal pigeon in 2 seconds. Chapter 943, The Aspect a Man Could Really Satisfy His Woman. The two flame pigeons flapped their wings and flew from Tang Xiu's palms to dance around the teenage girl for some time. But the intense heat from them caused everyone else to pace back a few steps from her, including her parents, though the little girl didn't feel any heat at all. Awesome. The girl covered her mouth with sparkling eyes. She looked at the sparks of fire fluttering around her from the two flame pigeons as though they were flame spirits. The onlookers in the surroundings were shocked as they couldn't see any props used by Tang Xiu. He only lifted his hands, yet the flames turned into flame pigeons. Mind-blowing. He's truly able to perform magic. This guy truly didn't brag. He's really awesome. What marvelous flame doves. They can really fly. Eyes staring wide, Li Yan and Yu Su looked at the dancing flame pigeons in the air with a look of disbelief. Even in their dreams, Tang Xiu being able to perform such magic never came to mind. He was even able to change the flame into flame pigeons without any stage props whatsoever. How did he do that? The same question popped up inside their mind. It was likewise the same wonder that swirled in the mind of the magician, Baong. The man looked extremely shocked since he couldn't see any props that possibly could be used by Tang Xiu. This young man is truly able to perform magic? It's like he had prepared everything in advance and came to snatch the stage. With a faint smile hung on his face, Tang Xiu created two bubbles of bluish water under his feet that made him float slowly. When his feet were a meter up from the ground, his fingers flicked and Zhang Xingya suddenly cried out since she was also lifted by two bubbles of water up into Tang Xiu's arms. "Are you afraid?" asked Tang Xiu with a smile. Looking at her feet, Zhang Xingya could see that it was not too high and was secretly relieved. Then she shook her head and said, "I'm not." "Well, since you're not afraid, how about having a dance?" asked Tang Xiu smilingly. "What dance?" "Here," asked Zhang Xingya. Dancing was something Tang Xiu never learned, but he had seen people dancing many times, so he imitated the dancing stance and its steps from his memory and took Zhang Xingya along directly. Zhang Xingya herself danced gracefully while Tang Xiu cooperated according to her movements. Their dance was flowing smoothly as their bodies' movements seemed like passing clouds, showing a graceful and breathtaking scene to the audience. Shortly after, countless gorgeous flame pigeons came out of nowhere and swirled around them. They constantly changed their formations along with their movement, adorning the air around them to change it into breathtaking and splendid scenery. Baong, however, looked exceedingly shocked with his heart pounding hard. Even his eyes looked sparkling at this moment. Shock and disbelief were the only feelings that raged inside his heart at the moment. Whereas, regarding Li Yan and Yu Su, they had long been standing dumbstruck and utterly tongue-tied as they watched Tang Xiu and Zhang Xingya dance in the air. They would have thought that they were dreaming if they hadn't just witnessed such a scene with their own two eyes. Along with the passing time, people flooded into the vicinity and created a huge crowd. In just half a minute, easily 300 people had come to watch the scene in the sky, many of whom spoke their mind in shock. God. This is so unbelievable. This scene is what we can only see on TV, no? I never thought that I could see this scene live. So crazy that it's striking to my eyes. It's so breathtakingly gorgeous. I suddenly feel that it's so unreal. Doesn't it look like a scene in a fairy tale world? How is it possible for any man to do this? They both wear hats and big sunglasses, but they have lovely statures. They look so graceful and have good chemistry. I really want to see what they really look like. Is this really a magic performance? How come there is such a mysterious magic? There's no way any world-class magician would be able to perform this kind of gig, right? This is awesome. The performance lasted for several minutes as Tang Xiu floated down to the ground along with Zhang Xingya in his arms. The blobs of bluish water also gradually faded away. Tang Xiu raised his head and gently waved his hand, causing the flame pigeons that were dancing in the surrounding air to gently disappear, including the ones around the little girl. Then, he spoke with a light smile, "Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my performance. I hope that everyone loved it. I like it. I love it. Can you perform more?" Tang Xiu faced the loud praises and requests of the onlookers with just a smile before he turned to look at Li Yan and Yu Su, whose faces were still shocked as he spoke to them. "How about you both? Ashamed with the impulsive to hide yourselves now? Humiliating others is equal to disgracing yourself. We're all Chinese, so I hope you can conduct yourself well. Don't ever make a fool of yourself when you go abroad in the future." Both of them opened their mouths but didn't say anything eventually. They indeed felt that they were exactly like what Tang Xiu said. Their cheeks felt hot like they had just gotten slapped in the face a couple of times. They were not stupid and were naturally able to distinguish that Tang Xiu's magic performance was much better than the previous magician. It was even more mysterious and magical. After shaking his head, Tang Xiu pulled Zhang Xinya to walk away from the crowd. Ba Song's face, however, looked grim and uncertain. When he saw that the couple was about to leave, he immediately ran and blocked Tang Xiu's path yet again, calling out, "Who exactly are you? Your performance just now was definitely not magic." "Don't make such an absurd conjecture if you know nothing," said Tang Xiu indifferently. "You're a magician, so concern yourself with the gigs you're performing on the stage instead of finding trouble and pestering your audience. Regardless, I apologize if you think I've disturbed your performance, but if you must blame someone, throw your tantrum with those two provocateurs. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have performed in public like that and ruined your stage. Just tell me, what you just performed was not magic, wasn't it?" said Baong loudly. How did you do it?" With his face turned cold, Tang Xiu replied with a question instead of answering him. "Ask yourself. You've worked your ass off and bitterly learned your magic tricks. Do you want to tell outsiders your techniques and secrets?" I can't." Baong turned pale and was hardly able to answer it. "So why bother pursuing me and asking about it since you won't do it yourself, huh?" sneered Tang Xiu. "Don't you also know that poking your nose into other magicians' tricks is a taboo thing to do in this industry?" The questioning made Baong look awkward and embarrassed. He lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. You know, we Chinese have a saying that those who can admit their mistakes will be able to reform themselves. It's one of the most important virtues a person could have, so stop bothering me again since you won't get anything at all," continued Tang Xiu. "I won't bother talking to you again for whatever you have in mind. Goodbye." With that said, he pulled Zhang Xinya to walk past Baong and leave the place quickly. Eyes staring at Tang Xiu's back, Baong murmured, "His performance just now was definitely not magic. There's no way a magic gig would be that mysterious. But who exactly is he and how did he do it?" A middle-aged man who stood very close to him asked with curiosity, "Is what you just said true? What he did is not a magic gig?" "Absolutely not." Baong shook his head and said, "Although I don't know how he did it, it was definitely not magic. Magic performances require a stage set, but he didn't use any of them whatsoever." "He couldn't be a celestial-like being, could he be?" exclaimed the middle-aged man. "A celestial being?" Basong's lips squirmed and he finally replied with a bitter face, "Perhaps he can only be described as a celestial being indeed. God damn it. How come I was as stupid as a pig? Such a stunning scene, yet I forgot to take a video with my smartphone? Darn right you are. I'm truly an idiot myself. If I videoed the scene just now and sent it to my friends, I'm hella sure it would create a huge sensation. It's really a pity. No photos and no videos? It's that guy's fault. Blame him for his magical performance. It was too amazing and beautiful, making me forget to do that." In a corner behind the crowd was a young man holding a smartphone. He was looking towards the direction where Tang Xiu and Zhang Xinya left in a daze, until the shouts from the onlookers around him pulled him back to reality. He then looked at a group of people screaming with a vexed expression and rolled his eyes. Only then did he realize something, so he suddenly shouted out loudly, "I recorded the scene, everyone. If you want it, you can come here and buy it. 10, no, $100 and you'll have it." Someone recorded it? I'll buy it. I'll buy. Me too. In just 10 minutes or so, hundreds of people bought the video. The young man excitedly transferred the video to the people around him while constantly stuffing $100 bills into his pocket. I got more than 10 grand. Tang Xiu himself was unaware that his and Zhang Xinya's performance was recorded, nor did he know that this guy sold the footage and earned more than $10,000 in just 10 minutes. He and Zhang Xinya didn't go far after they left that place and just entered a nearby shopping mall. There, they literally bought all the famous brand goods, as well as ordinary articles, in a happy and joyous mood. Despite being someone who didn't like spending money extravagantly, Tang Xiu still poured out his money with Zhang Xinya. Certainly, it was also because every floor had different stuff. It was not until the couple entered the city's special food court did their shopping spree come to an end. As they came back to the hotel, Zhang Xinya was completely exhausted, while Tang Xiu likewise felt slightly weary. Just as Zhang Xinya slumped down on the sofa drained, however, he exercised his masterful technique to use the Twina massage on her and made her weariness gradually disappear. "You're really amazing, Tang Xiu." She groaned softly while enjoying the comfort of her body. "Amazing?" Tang Xiu smiled and asked, "In what aspect are you talking about, though?" "What aspect?" asked Zhang Xinya, looking puzzled. Tang Xiu stopped massaging her and picked her up onto his lap. He brought her to the bedroom while grinning. "You know, telling a man that he's amazing in a particular aspect refers to the stuff we're going to do shortly. Don't worry, though. I'll wholeheartedly do my best to serve you and let you." Chapter 944, Crisis in Nine Dragons Island. The first wisp of sunlight was rising from the east horizon as Tang Xiu woke up from his sleep. He looked at Zhang Xinya, who was still soundly asleep with a rosy complexion, before he reached over to grab his mobile phone on the bedside counter and looked at the dozens of unanswered calls on it. "Huh? Long Zhengyu?" Brows wrinkled, Tang Xiu put on clean clothes with a puzzled expression. He didn't even take the time to shower and just headed to the living room instead to call back. His call just rang twice before it got picked up, followed by Long Zhengyu's hushed voice, "We got an accident here on Nine Dragons Island, Tang Xiu." The news made Tang Xiu's expression change and he asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" "Two black-robed old men landed on the island last night. They said that they had buried something here and must dig it out," said Long Zhengyu. "They claimed that it's buried in the center of the island where we've built the houses. We'll have to demolish them if they want to dig it up." "Do you know who are they?" asked Tang Xiu. "I don't know their identity, but they are just dreadful. The island has quite a number of experts on guard, yet those two black-robed old men were able to injure tens of them. If it wasn't for the help from 6 very powerful mysterious people, those 2 black geezers would have succeeded." "There were 6 other people?" asked Tang Xiu again. "You know those 6? "I dare say that I've never seen them." Long Zhengyu shook his head and said, "These 6 look very young, seemingly around 17 years old, yet their combat force is nothing to scoff at. Their magic spells are still shocking even though they didn't summon wind or call for rain." "They are cultivators?" Tang Xiu's expression changed and he asked in a heavy voice, "What's the current situation now?" "Those 2 black-robed old men are now battling these 6 teenagers, and they seem to be in a deadlock." "No one has the upper hand," said Long Zhengyu with a wry voice. "I'll be there tonight at the latest," said Tang Xiu with a deep voice. "Zhengyu, remember to pay attention to safety first and don't enter any conflict with them if possible. Demolishing the buildings is not an option, prevent them in do so. And do anything you can to buy some time until I arrive." "Got it," answered Long Zhengyu. Tang Xiu took a deep breath. After hanging up, he dialed Mo's number and learned that he had arrived in Thailand along with Jing, Shui Sha, and He Xiong. They were expected to come over in a few hours, so Tang Xiu immediately ordered Mo to immediately depart to Saipan and they'd meet there. It had been a long-time plan of Tang Xiu to make Nine Dragons Island an important site of cultivation in the future. He had literally burned so much money to buy it and even invested 20 billion yuan for the construction project there. Additionally, he still had to invest a lot of jade there to arrange a large array. With such a problem occurring there, it was a must for him to rush over and deal with it personally. He couldn't guesstimate who those two black-robed old men were, but he had a faint hunch that the other 6 youths were definitely cultivators. He had assigned quite a number of experts to guard the island, save for Wolfhead's team, including some everlasting feast hall experts just like Mo. These people should be very formidable. Tang Xiu woke Zhang Xinya up and slightly felt sorry for her after seeing her sleepy face. Nevertheless, he still spoke to her. "Xinya, I'm sorry, but I can't escort you back to the mainland. You have to hurry to take a shower and leave Bangkok with me. I'm going to take you somewhere else." With her spirit aroused, Zhang Xinya's face was the epitome of joy as she asked, "You won't escort me back to China?" "That's great. But where are we going, though?" "We'll head to Saipan and then leave for Nine Dragons Island," answered Tang Xiu. "Nine Dragons Island?" Zhang Xinya was confused and asked again, "Where is this island located?" "It's an island I bought in the Pacific Ocean. I set it up as our future base," answered Tang Xiu. "Something just happened there, so I have to rush over and deal with it." Even though Zhang Xinya didn't understand why Tang Xiu must leave for the island he bought in the Pacific Ocean, nor what he meant as a space later, she immediately understood and quickly got up to wash and rinse out her mouth. She then got everything packed up. 10 minutes later, they came out of the suite. Tang Xiu then saw Spectre, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju outside. There was also Singluan with them and the latter quickly greeted him. "You've woken up, Mr. Tang." "Something important came up, so I must leave Thailand right away," said Tang Xiu. "Singluan, I'll have to put our plan on hold for now, but I'll be back here to find you once I've dealt with the problem in that place." The words made Singluan let out a forced, wry smile. "Can't you put that matter on hold first, Mr. Tang? My brother has already returned. I've sent my men to keep an eye on him, but he just mysteriously vanished. I suspect he's already sniffed out that we're going to carry out the scheme against him. If we don't rush to deal with him now, I'm afraid." Tang Xiu frowned and he fell silent for a while before he answered, "Singluan, we really need to leave and hurry over to deal with this urgent matter. I know we can deal with your brother first while I'm here. But just think about it. If we were to carry it out now and then I leave after killing your brother, your father will be furious. Besides, I think assassinating him is a much better option than killing him in the open since you two are brothers." Singlu was silent as he knew that Tang Xiu was correct. Their previous agreement and plan also said that they would set up the preparations to secretly assassinate his big brother, before taking over the position of patriarch from his father, nominally making him the new head of his dark shaman family. If he were to resort to killing directly, many other issues would come up. "I understand. Then I'll be waiting for you," concurred Singluan with a wry smile. Tang Xiu patted his shoulder and smilingly said, "You've been enduring it for many years, so waiting a few more days is nothing, right? Anyway, there's no need to worry about it. So long as I solve the issue over there, what I'm gonna do first is to come back here." Bangkok Airport. Tang Xiu's group of 5 had just arrived and hadn't yet boarded their flight as 2 middle-aged men in black suits and black sunglasses rushed over. The one who had a scar on his mouth asked, "Are you Mr. Tang Xiu?" "And who are you?" asked Tang Xiu with a frown. "You'll soon know who we are, Mr. Tang," said the man. "We were ordered by our young master to ask Mr. Tang to wait about 10 minutes or so. He will rush over here to see you." It was still half an hour until their flight, so Tang Xiu immediately said, "I can wait for him, but I won't entertain you longer than 10 minutes. In less than 10 minutes, a young man with a burly figure, though only 170 centimeters tall, came striding over along with a group of black-suited big men. As he came in front of Tang Xiu, he shot a fast glance to Spectre, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju around Tang Xiu before he gently nodded and said, "Are you, Mr. Tang?" Tang Xiu had seen this man and knew his identity. This man was Xingguo, the oldest prince of the Dark Shaman clan and Xingluan's older brother. The moment he saw him, Tang Xiu immediately concluded that his plan with Xingluan may have been exposed, and thus, there was likely a traitor around Xingluan. "I am," said Tang Xiu indifferently. "There's something between us which I think is a bit of a misunderstanding, Mr. Tang." Xingguo smiled and said, "However, since you have some matters to tend to and are going to leave Bangkok, it's rather inconvenient for me to speak about it. But still, I'd like to present you with these 2 gifts which I hope are to your liking." "Accepting gifts without any merits? I don't think there's any need for you to give me anything," said Tang Xiu with a frown. Xingguo received 2 gift boxes from 2 of his men and handed them over to Tang Xiu. "Don't you want to see what I wish to gift you, Mr. Tang? I guarantee that you'll like this gift." After being silent for a short while, Tang Xiu motioned for Spectre to receive a box. Tang Xiu personally opened the first gift box, and to his surprise, inside he found a glittering crimson crystal in the shape of a diamond which emitted out faint energy fluctuations. "A flame crystal?" Tang Xiu shot a strange look at Xingguo and questioned, "This is quite a gift. I wouldn't have expected that you'd have it in your collection." "Ah. It turns out you also know about this precious mineral, Mr. Tang," said Xingguo with a smile. "However, I think you'll agree that you'll like the other gift as it's much better than this one." Tang Xiu continued to open the second gift box by himself and his expression slightly changed after he clearly saw the object. He shot out a deep yet meaningful look at Xingguo and smilingly said, "You see, I can still get these 2 items soon even if you don't give them to me today. If memory serves, the Chinese have an old saying that it's much better to cast away enmity than to keep it alive," said Xingguo with a faint smile. "You and I have neither a grudge nor enmity. You just want to get this jade carving, hence, I hope you can drop your cooperation with my little brother." Taking out the scarlet lifelike jade pig from the gift box, Tang Xiu then asked, "Well, Xingluan should have a traitor around him, shouldn't he? Frankly, my father has been wanting me to be the heir of the clan ever since I was small. I don't think I've ever disappointed him. I am not the creme de la creme perhaps, but I think I'm competent enough to be an heir of my Dark Shaman clan. Besides, I don't think my brother knows yet that most of my clan's power is under my control and it was my father who passed it to me silently. Since you have that much power under your control, then why did you bother to send this zodiac jade carving personally?" asked Tang Xiu. "Besides, I only took these few men with me now, so don't tell me you want to play with me in another way, eh?" "No. It is not my wish to become your enemy." Xingguo shook his head and said, "The Dark Shaman clan's way is to never annoy others unless outsiders provoke us first. Even if outsiders are to provoke us, we'll try to resolve the discord and strive to become friends with them." Tang Xiu observed Xingguo in front of him who was not too humble nor servile. He suddenly let out a smile and said, "I have to admit that you're indeed stronger than your little brother. It's just..." Chapter 945, Believing in Fate. Xingguo didn't know much about Tang Xiu, but he was still able to investigate some things about his recent deeds through various channels. One thing he found out that made him dread Tang Xiu was his background, the Tang family of Beijing in China. The intel he had obtained even indicated that Tang Xiu was someone responsible for the death of the Amur tiger. He knew who the Amur tiger was as he had once visited this man. Although this man was not exactly a very powerful rival nor subordinate, his actual strength was nothing to scoff at either. Thus, after he found out that Tang Xiu's purpose was the zodiac jade carving, he didn't hesitate to take it out. He even offered another precious mineral in his collection to him, intending to bury the hatchet that was against him. Just what?" asked Xingguo with a smile, still training his eyes on Tang Xiu. It's just that I have a commitment that I will definitely keep, said Tang Xiu indifferently. You have a lot of men with you now, so you have two options. You can either remove me immediately, or you can face a dead end when I come back here after I'm done dealing with some other issues. With a complexion turned slightly solemn after hearing that, the smile on Xingguo's face disappeared. He shot a deep look at Tang Xiu and asked, so we can't see this eye to eye then? Even though I have respectfully presented you the jade pig you've been wanting, as well as a precious mineral I've kept for many years as a gift? Tang Xiu pondered for a while and then slowly said, I'll accept the jade pig and the flame crystal. In exchange, I'll give you some time to make preparations. Your dark shaman clan has 2 heirs, I only want to see a sole heir once I come back. It doesn't matter who it is. Xingguo seemed to be moved and asked again, what if that sole heir is me? Can we still get along in the future? Not only will we have peace, but we can also cooperate in some aspects. Tang Xiu nodded. A cooperation, huh? Xingguo sneered inwardly. He hadn't yet found out all the details about Tang Xiu at present, and he didn't want to rashly act. He was now finally certain that Tang Xiu's commitment to helping his foolish little brother would involve some conditions that would damage his own interests. It was likely that these conditions would include some considerable losses to his dark shaman clan. 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu was sitting in the first-class cabin on the plane. He immediately took his mobile out and dialed a cell number. After the call got picked up, he spoke, Xiao Xue. Immediately send 20 members of our Everlasting Feast Hall at the Foundation Establishment stage to Bangkok. They are to find Xingluan and protect his safety. Put Light and Dark in charge of the team if they are free from their assignment. Understood, Grand Master, answered Gu Xiaoxue. After pondering for a short while, Tang Xiu said again, also, prepare 50 essence amassing pills. Tell Light and Dark to give them to Xingluan as an upfront payment. Tell the man to race against time to enhance the strength of every expert under him. Also, there's a traitor around him, someone who's very close to him. Tell him to discover and neutralize the spy. All right, I'll pass your message to him. As the call ended and after he had put away the handset into his interspatial ring, coldness gleamed inside Tang Xiu's eyes. He admitted that Xingguo was a more outstanding option compared to Xingluan, a level higher in excellence. Yet this man had a deep scheming mind, a type of person he never liked getting along with. If he wanted to obtain the demon stone from the Dark Shaman clan and gradually make this clan under his control, and work for him in the future, Xingluan was the best candidate. Hence, there was no better option left other than Xingguo's death, including his father's demise, the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. At that time, it would be much easier for him to control Xingluan. Outside the airport, Xingguo got into a limousine and, as the car started up, he spoke to the confidant next to him. Call our contact in China and tell them to investigate this Tang punk. I want a complete and thorough investigation. Also, get into contact with the intel leader of the Dark Wind organization in China to purchase any intel regarding Tang Xiu. Understood. The middle-aged man with a goatee and a short braided hairdo complied and made some phone calls. However, his complexion turned a bit dazed after he made his last phone call. He then shook his head and said, Young master, I just called the head of intel for the Dark Wind organization in China. We've got some bad news. What is it? Asked Xingguo with a deep voice. He told me that they have a lot of information about Tang Xiu, but none of it is substantive information. The Dark Wind have been able to get all the information about Tang Xiu that any other organization could get, but they, just like many others, have been unable to dig up any other substantial information either. Also, he told me something else, that a lot of dreadful figures are likely to be around Tang Xiu at all times. The Dark Wind have lost tens of elite intel agents that have investigated the details of him, thus, they have been unable to find anything substantial regarding his core secrets. Xingguo's expression changed. He knew perfectly well what the Dark Wind organization was truly capable of. It was the biggest intelligence organization in the world and an existence that was absolutely able to investigate everything, through every opening. It was to the extent that they could even investigate the color of the underwear the President of the United States wore today, if they wanted to. Yet, why have they been unable to investigate any meaningful information about Tang Xiu at all? There are two possibilities regarding this issue. Firstly, there is a very formidable character who's always around Tang Xiu and possesses a very formidable counter-detection ability. Even though there's no other card in Tang Xiu's hand, this character is responsible for ruining all the investigations conducted by the Dark Wind organization. Secondly, there's another powerful entity behind Tang Xiu, causing even the Dark Wind organization to be unable to investigate the existence of that power. Cinco suddenly felt a bad premonition. No matter which possibility it was, it only meant that Tang Xiu was not simple. Therefore, if he didn't want to be his enemy, then he must completely resolve all the enmities between them, including any possible future conflicts. Only then would he be able to remove his younger brother. I originally planned to let this little brother bastard of mine live for a few more years. I didn't expect that he'd act first to remove me. Since this is the case, I can't be blamed for being ruthless and throwing away all the kinship between us. The hazy night was filled with the occasional breeze from the sea. Tang Xiu took Zhang Xinye, Spectre, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju to board a taxi that took them to traverse the coastal highway of Saipan. Under the dim light of the street, Zhang Xinye looked like a kitten that was shrunk in Tang Xiu's arms fast asleep, whereas Spectre sitting shotgun wore a bored expression and watched the night outside the window. There's police blockade. The road ahead is closed, sir. The taxi driver suddenly turned his head and reported. It's past 3 a.m., why would the police close the road at this hour? Tang Xiu frowned and asked, also, this is not the only road to the Lao Bei Resort, right? Can we take a roundabout route? I don't know why the police have blockaded this road, said the taxi driver, however, this road is the nearest path to the Lao Bei Resort. It would take us more than 30 minutes to make a detour. For now, drive over there and inquire as to what happened and why they have closed the road ahead, said Tang Xiu. Okay. The taxi driver complied. He picked up the speed again and quickly moved ahead. When the taxi stopped at the front of the 4 police cars, the cab driver opened the window and asked aloud, "Hey, police officers, why is this road closed off? I'm driving my passengers to the Lao Bei Resort through here. Please get out of your car for inspection." The middle-aged policeman strode over and waved the baton in his hand. The cab driver hesitated and turned to look at Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu turned to Spectre and ordered, "Tell him that I'm a friend of Tom Reggie." Spectre nodded and called out to the policeman outside, "Hey, our boss is a friend of Tom Reggie, so I hope you can make way for us. Besides, my boss is very tired now and needs a rest. You can expect some miserable repercussions if you affect my boss's trip here." Tom Reggie's friend? The policeman's expression changed. As he was about to report this to his leader, a few headlights came from the distance and 3 black SUVs parked near the taxi shortly after. "Hey, what happened here?" A big man in the frontmost car came out and shouted loudly. Upon seeing the license plates of the SUVs, the policeman's complexion changed yet again. He stood straight to give a salute and answered with a respectful face, "Honored sir. We're setting up a roadblock here to chase 2 criminals who committed murder 2 days ago. Please forgive us if this affects you. Hurry up and make way." That policeman immediately shouted a few times and 2 police cars moved to the roadside to make way. The burly man then went back to the SUV as the 3 SUVs restarted their engines and moved ahead. Tang Xiu was still sitting in the taxi as he saw Spectre striding to block the path of the 3 SUVs with cold light gleaming in his eyes. He had already guessed that the people in these 3 SUVs were people of power in Saipan. "What the hell are you doing?" The stalwart man poked his head out of the window and shouted at Spectre. Spectre ignored him and looked at the police instead and asked aloud, why the hell can they pass through but we can't? Do they have some privileges here or something? You fucking bastard. Several policemen rushed over to try to drive Spectre away. Tang Xiu released his perception to inside the SUVs and looked surprised after he saw more than 10 people sitting inside them. It was because he found a familiar face inside, someone he knew through his father. He gently pushed Zhang Xingya away and made her lean on the seat to continue her sleep. He then opened the car's door to get out and headed to the front of Spectre. While pointing at the policeman who rushed over to them, he let out a smile and spoke in Mandarin. I believe in fate. May I know if Mr. Song believes in it too? A belief in fate? Inside the second SUV, Song Guanghui, who had just awoken from his sleep due to the stop, suddenly heard the voice outside. Surprise flashed in his eyes as he opened the window to look outside with a puzzled expression on his face. A young man, and an outsider, too? He thought for a moment and asked, Young man, are you from China, and do we know each other? Tang Xiu paced forward to the SUV, but was stopped by 5 burly men who rushed out of the car. Several policemen even quickly drew their pistols, aiming their muzzles at him. Looking at this scene, Tang Xiu only shook his head and smilingly said, I heard my father say that Uncle Song is a senior official of Saipan. It seems like it's really true.